Welcome to Product by Design with Kyle and Eva,
a podcast about product management and product design,
where we'll talk about subjects from product strategy to inclusive design.
Every episode, we just have a good conversation about all the things that you may already know or not know, and occasionally we'll have a guest from maybe engineering or other product managers and designers to talk about all these topics.
Welcome back to another episode of Product by Design with Kyle and Eva. How's it going, Eva?
Whoa, good day. It is Friday afternoon and it's a beautiful fall day. And let's see, every time when we record like on a Friday, sometimes we do it on Sunday, depends on if I get stuck in meetings and stuff. And then I feel like when we record on Fridays, I'm just kind of like, where am I? What is life? And sometimes I don't know if you feel the same way when it's like at the end of the week, you think about what you want to do for the weekend. I'm drawing a blank because I have not thought through, the week. And then once it's Friday, it's like, wait, I haven't even thought about what to do Friday night. I don't even know what's going on right now. So don't know what's actually happening. And I don't know if anyone feels that way. Do you feel that that end of week, like, I don't know, coming back to earth feeling?
I don't know. I usually have like a long list of things piling up for me as the weekend approaches. And so it's usually, I just have a lot of projects that I know I have to get to, like when the weekend comes. So that's probably one of the joys of being a homeowner. And two, I'm probably just like a glutton for punishment where I just have more things to do than I know that I can do. So as the weekend approaches, I see all of those things coming and I'm like, I know that Saturday I have way more stuff to do than I could possibly ever get done. And so how I'm going to do it,
sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
Like what kind of project are you talking about? Like home project or?
Both. Yeah. So I've got home projects I've been teeing up. So I've been like prepping our yard to get some yard work done. Like I want to put down some, like going back to the windstorm, we had mulch in our yard and it basically just blew it all away. So I need to put down some like decorative rock or something to make it look nice again. And then I don't know if I mentioned on this podcast, but I do woodworking. And so I have like orders and stuff that
we did not know that when you even brought up that giant tree mill. I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I do that. That's actually not just a hobby, but like actually kind of a little side business. And so I get orders for things. So I have to, So I have some orders that I actually need to get fulfilled and do. So that's
Kyle, what else are you hiding from us? What else are you hiding from us?
What else? I guess if I'm just coming clean, do like some graphic design work as well.
Okay.
And have a laser engraving machine. So have some laser engraving that I need to do as well. That's a little bit quicker because you just kind of do some design files that I already have done. So anyway, those are all on the to-do list, but the least exciting of that is just thinking about shoveling rock into like different places of the yard. Anyway.
What is a qualification to be called like a Renaissance man? Because I feel like you're almost there. At least almost there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question.
That's crazy. Yeah. I feel like every episode we find out a little bit more about you that I'm like, what? But yeah, that's very exciting. Woodworking. That's my last time touching any lumber handiwork was, 4 or 5 years ago. I found like this online site that gives you like blueprints and stuff. And I was like, wait, was it? No, it was way longer ago. 7, 8 years ago. No, too long. No, about there. Anyways, let's just say 6. I built a daybed for myself when I was living in a studio apartment. And I was like, you know what? That's going to be cheap. That's going to be fun. It's going to be quick. But you know what? And then at the same time, I was like, I'm going to pick a pattern that has, all these different design in the back panel of the bed. And it ended up like, oh man, I don't know. It took me probably like a whole month to have an actual bed. And not only then, it took me definitely cost more than what I originally planned, but I am very, very proud of it. And it's still sitting in, I mean, it's not in like put together right now, but it's sitting in storage in the hallway.
Yeah.
Once in a while when I grab my broom and stuff, I look at it and I think, wow, I made this thing. It's pretty nice when you get to do, put stuff together.
Yeah. There's something fulfilling about that, which you just don't get from, just buying it at a store. And I like that. Okay. Maybe we need another podcast episode, like the building your own. I don't even think that's our genre of podcast, but building your own stuff and the fulfillment that you get from it.
But yeah, I think that's important to have hobby that are more like off the computer.
Yeah. Yep.
It's tiring to be on the computer. And I started like picking up different kind of tactile hobbies. I mean, painting, that's one thing I like doing. Only oil painting, no watercolor, cannot undo. It's very scary. Like, I don't know how people do watercolor. So oil painting is great. You can undo however many times you want, paint over it however many times you want. I would imagine that woodworking is also very unforgiving. You cut it, you lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's partly figuring out how to fix the mistakes that you make or rework the plans that you created in order to cover up the mistake that you made. So yeah, it can be a little unforgiving, but you also have to be creative in how you fix the mistakes that you make.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's very unforgiving, but I guess there are ways to fix mistakes.
Oh yeah. And yeah, cover them and work around them, all those types of things. It's the woodworker's creed or motto, I guess. I don't know if there's a woodworker's creed or motto, but I think any woodworker would tell you that that's just part of what you have to do is figure out how to either work around the mistakes that you made or
I can see you like speaking as like the keynote speaker at the next like annual, I don't know, woodworking craftsman conference with that, and everyone like clap in the audience and say yes. But I did not know that about you. That's cool. I know you have made projects and stuff for your home, but are you big on doing woodworking freelance? Is that a side business you said? Or is it more of a hobby?
It's a decent little side thing. So mostly on Etsy. So yeah, mostly small stuff.
Etsy shop.
Yeah, Etsy shop.
Are you going to put it in the show notes this time?
I'll throw it in the show notes. Yeah.
That's cool. Have you gotten any crazy requests or requests that you're like, that's so ugly, I don't want to make that? Anything like that?
I do get interesting requests. Yes. And that's where a lot of stuff comes from. The rolling pins that I make, you can check out some of them. They keep getting bigger and bigger by request. So like,
wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, you can go look at them in the actual shop. So we'll put it in the show notes. Like it's Evans Woodshop Co. on Etsy, but the actual rolling pin. So I'm making them like 3 feet long and like 2.5 or 3 inches in diameter, which is just, it doesn't sound that big, but that is a huge, huge rolling pin. Like if you hold it, it is so heavy and so big. I think the largest one I made was almost like 4 feet and like 3 inches thick. Yeah. It's just
for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I personally don't have any use for like a 4-foot rolling pin. For me, it's like a battering ram. It's just huge, but people use them for like making pasta and making like fondants and things like that. So they'll request them, but yeah, they're huge.
Are you making rolling pins for like Bigfoot or what? Like that's so huge.
No, it's been mostly people who make pasta that have requested them. So
I am very curious about the people that order that size of rolling pin. That's crazy. And you know what? You can cut out everything else that happened before this. The last 2 minutes, because that's probably the most exciting part of this whole podcast. Yep. It's discovering that people are buying large size rolling pin. That's crazy. I also, at first I thought you said bowling.
Oh,
pin?
bowling pin. No.
And then it took me a second. I was like, no, he said rolling pin.
Yeah.
And when you said 4 feet, I definitely was like, yeah, not bowling pin.
No bowling pins, rolling pins.
That's crazy though.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have a photo of that in your shop, the 4 feet one?
Yeah. So
Great.
In the shop on Instagram, you can check it out as well. Evans Wood Shop. We'll throw all that in the show notes.
Yes. I love that you have many, many skills and you continue to develop more skills as a human. And this is me trying to segue into our topic today. Speaking of skills.
We nailed the segue today. Wow. All right. You're in charge of segues. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll roll right into it. Did you get that? Did you get that one?
Yeah,
you didn't get the connection.
That's 2. You nailed 2 segues in one episode. I feel like I have failed in every other segue, and you get 2 in one.
Different style.
Dang.
Yeah, we planned this. We're definitely like, hey, make sure you bring up the rolling pin. So I can make that joke, but and skills. Yes. I just fell off there. So, okay. Yes, we're going to talk about ongoing learning / development as product people today. And when we talk about product people, of course, Kyle's going to talk more about product management, and I'm going to talk about some resources and also what I think is helpful for maybe UX or product designer people. So shall we get started?
Let's do it. So
awesome.
I love this topic because I think personal development as product people is just so hugely important and so underutilized or so not focused on generally. When I think about professional athletes, so I love watching professional soccer, for example. And we think about professional athletes, and it could be any type of professional athlete, the amount of time that they spend practicing their profession or their sport is massive. They're putting in hours and hours each day for, an hour or 2 of actual game time. And so most of their time is actually dedicated to preparing for their performance. And that really goes for any type of performer. They, spend massive amounts of time preparing and learning and understanding. And then when we look at ourselves as professionals, because that's what we are, whether we're designers or product managers or really any type of professional, the amount of time that we spend preparing or learning or, doing, I don't want to say practicing, because when we're actually, doing our jobs, we're practicing, hopefully, but, kind of bettering ourselves is really, really small compared to, like a professional athlete. And so really taking the time to put in some of that effort to just learn and develop our skills in a way that's kind of outside of our job, I think is hugely important, because if we don't, we kind of run the risk of not advancing just ourselves in the way that we could. And so we've kind of put together a number of different ways that as product people, we could do that. And so I wanted to start first with, I think, a couple easier things that I found very, very useful. And then we'll kind of get into some of the more, I think, time-consuming ones. But the first one is, for me, podcasts. And if you're listening to this, you're already like ahead of the curve, because I think, podcasts is a great way to learn and develop skills and understanding just of product and design, and hear what other people are talking about and thinking about, and help to understand. This was one of the ways early on in my career too, that I just started to learn the language of product and design, and it helped me just learn to think, what other people were thinking about, whether they were product managers, designers, leaders in the field, and just start to understand, how they were going about solving the problems. And there's a number of podcasts that I listen to currently. And there's even more now than there were, years ago when I think we started kind of in our respective fields. So we definitely won't list them all out here because I think you can go and find a huge number of them. Number one, Product by Design, obviously, is where you should start. But there's a number of other ones as well. And I'll mention a couple. I think that there's a number of good ones. One that I've always enjoyed, this is Product Management, is a good one. Inside Intercom, and The Product Experience, which is put on by Mind the Product. So those are a couple product specific ones that I found really useful. And again, there's a whole host of other ones out there. And I'll also mention too that I wouldn't stick to product specific ones either. I think that kind of getting outside of the realm of product and design is important just as we think about not just our careers, but also just our personal development. And so a couple other ones that I'll just put out there that I found helpful just in thinking about personal development and leadership and those types of topics include the Knowledge Project, which talks a lot about mental models and thought leadership and thinking, and how we can just think about first principles and kind of build up from there. Another great one is Econ Talk, which just does interviews with authors and other thought leaders in a variety of different fields. So you kind of explore a whole range of topics, and I love that one. And Hidden Brain is another good one that I've enjoyed, which is more kind of on the psychology side. So thinking about thinking and the way that we think, and exploring just the psychology of human nature and different things like that. So those are a couple just interesting ones. Again, I think that there are a number out there, but hopefully that helps kind of start you thinking about some ways that you can be exploring podcast as a medium for some personal development.
Those are wonderful. And I love that you're plugging our podcast. And I was like, oh, that's right. We are actually in one. That's interesting. And I like the list that you have given. And jumping back to what you said at the beginning too. And I like that you pointed out also not just learning the thing that you're doing, but like absorbing other skills and other areas. Like for me, I do think that it's important to understand how a product manager, work and what are those skills that they have. And I think we learn those by osmosis. But then when I dive deeper and kind of learning more of the principles and process and stuff, it definitely helps me to understand how I can fit better and to make sure our process is seamless too. But yeah. And can you dive a little deeper? I do want to hear, do you have a favorite podcast? I mean, out of the short list that you have given?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. Honestly, I probably go back the most. I probably go most frequently to the Knowledge Project. Like that's probably my go-to. Like if I'm just picking one, I really enjoy like the range of subjects that they cover in that and the variety of guests. But there's the other, I'd say all of them have just a wide variety of guests and topics that they include. So anyway, I would recommend any of those that I listed, but that's probably, I don't know, just for me, that's the one I probably go the most frequently to personally.
I see. So here's my quick podcast list. And so for me, I just pick out one, maybe two, if I really, love certain things in each of the list, just because like you mentioned, there could be 500 things that people can quickly Google, and I'm just going to spend more time talking about these particular items that I really like. So one podcast that I really like, I was debating, do I want to bring up the Design Better podcast by Envision, or another one that is also based in Salt Lake City, Design Much, by Andy Page and Patrick Cox. And they are great guys. I think they work at Canopy Tax and also in Salt Lake City. I like their format of their podcast. It's kind of similar to what we do. It's really casual. It's very easy to listen to. And I like that they talk about real kind of a day-to-day what happens at work and how do you solve those issues. And so I really recommend that one if you're looking for something that is not very serious and kind of similar tone to what you're getting here. I do not think that like they're podcast competitors or anything. So I recommend go over there and check them out too. And I think they come out with new episodes every Tuesday. Yeah, I recommend that. And so, but also check out the Envision one too. Envision, I mean, it's a giant company, so they have a lot more resources to do a lot more research. And I'm sure you have seen their email blast of all the different kinds of articles and everything. So I guess I said I wasn't going to bring up more than one item, but yeah, Envision definitely worth checking out, not just their podcast, but everything else too. So now I'm going to go through my 2 short lists of, I don't know if you have the same list, but I have a short list with 1 item on it of webinar. Is that I noticed usertesting.com, they host a lot of very good quality webinars. And if you are in the UX or product design field, anything related to that, go sign up for their email. And I think they are, I sometimes think that they're better than the ones from Envision, but Envision, don't hate me. So I recommend, usertesting.com. They focus on very specific topics. They're not just like broad overall, someone talking about, an idea of how to execute, but they actually talk about the process on this is how I execute it. And this is why I do it this way when it comes to like research, testing, and I can't think of a specific topic right now at the top of my head, but I remember every time when I see an email blast, it's always like a question that I have asked myself or me and my product manager have discussed at one point, but written in their email subject line. So I'm like, yes, please tell me more. I think one time, it might be recent. My timeline is all messed up all the time, but about feature adoption. And I'm like, yes, let's talk about that. I want to know more about that. Anyways, they do a really good job with their webinars. So that would be my recommendations. And another place to find good resources, I guess, when it comes to articles or videos is this one. Everyone's going to be like, I knew that already, but the NN group, the Norman Newson group, this one is basically the place to go. We, I guess, reference a lot to that site too, and they just are the industry giant. I feel like they have done anything that you can think of. Like they have a research and they have an article for it. And again, not only do they have one article, but they have probably one article with 10 different follow-up articles of the same topic to give you more than what you need. And I really love that their articles are also very precise. If you don't want to spend 2 hours reading, a whole book on one topic, I think that it's Newson Norman Group. I always switch to Norman Newson Group. And every time I'm like, no, the other way around. And then I flip it again. Sometimes I flip it to the right name. Apologies. Don't hate me. NN Group. So Newson Norman Group. And again, wonderful article. And they also have short videos that they put at the end of their articles that can explain to you in a human voice. I also really enjoy those videos too, because sometimes hearing it from a person talking about the same thing than reading makes a lot more sense. I like that they're all bite-sized too. So
yeah,
definitely look that up. And of course they offer professional training and consultation, all these things, but those are different topics for different days and they are not free. So there's that. But yeah, industry giant. So definitely read up on anything they have to offer.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. So I kind of grouped these into articles and publications and newsletters. So I'm glad you kind of put webinars in there, because that's probably like a good grouping to have of like, where can you go get articles and, just different like nuggets of information and things like that. And you called out some really good ones. And I'm glad you threw on Envision. Like, yep. I feel like their product is, I feel like used to be like the leader, but they're still like huge leader as far as like their articles and like thought leadership goes. So they may not have the best like prototyping tool out there, but dang, they still have like some really good articles. Well, they're fighting to have the best, you know, they used to, and now they're in, you know, hard competition to maintain that. But man, they have good articles and things out that they put out.
Yeah, if they ever want to sponsor us, we're going to have to cut this part out, right?
We'll chop that up a little bit and make it sound a little bit better. Hey, we said that they have like really good thought leadership and things along that line, which they do. Like,
I agree. Their research is great. And I think I am 99% sure that they have a very well-established team that do a lot of the education pieces and emails, articles, all these studies and research. So yes, we love InVision, just not the prototyping tool.
Yeah.
Cut that part when we get sponsored.
we'll go back and do some editing. Yeah. As far as some other like places for articles and publications and things like that. So where I go is, and where you can also go, I'll give another plug here for Product by Design on Medium. If you haven't checked that out, do it, as well as Product Thinking on Substack. Those are two of ours. So those are places you can go. We've plugged them before, but we will plug them here as well. And then I am a fan of like Product Coalition and UX Collective on Medium. Like those are places, those are like other publications where just a lot of people write and put just a lot of really good information on product and design and things like that. And then also, again, Mind the Product. Like if you're a member, you know, they have just started this year, like a membership program where they do lots of kind of like you said, like webinars and newsletters and things like that. Again, it's not free anymore. It used to be free. It's not free now, but certainly something that could be worth it. Like if you're very serious about leveling up, you know, kind of your product management skills. I don't think like just the intro is too expensive. And I think if you pay for like one of their conferences, you kind of get into it for less expensive or for free for a year or something like that. So definitely worth it. And then kind of like we were mentioning, like some of the vendors out there that sell products have just really good thought leadership. Like we mentioned InVision, Intercom is another one, and Pendo. Like those ones are good. They just have good teams putting together like good information as far as like newsletters and articles and things like that. That obviously like they will plug their products periodically, but it's not in a way necessarily that taints some of the things that they're putting together either. Like they're doing a good job as far as just their product thinking and things like that go. So those are some good ones that I enjoy.
Sweet. That was a lot. Thank you so much. So what about books? Do you have a favorite book and a list of books?
I do. So going to books there, I do have a list of books. So I think books are another really great one. I wrote an article a little while ago about the 5 books for product managers that I would recommend. I will give a slightly updated list to that. So if I were getting into product management right now, there are probably, and this is really tough because I think that there are a lot of really, really good product books. I'd say that for me, the number one book, if I was picking just one for a product manager, would still be Inspired by Marty Cagan, because I think it covers like the broadest number of topics as far as product management goes. So if you were to pick one for product management, I think that would cover pretty much all of the basics that you would need to know in order to get started and go pretty far as a product manager. I've also listed out Design of Everyday Things. That's one for me that is just like fundamental to thinking about design and the core principles of what is good design and how should we be thinking about it in life in general, and then in the products that we use. Competing Against Luck is a really good one on jobs to be done for me. That framework and way of thinking. Lean Startup is kind of, we're going back, but I feel like it's just like fundamental to like lean thinking and how we operate as product managers. And I've swapped one out from my article in that I wrote a little while ago, Thinking in Systems. So I think systems thinking is really important, and how complexity is all interrelated. And Thinking in Systems is kind of a primer to that. So it's not like an overly complicated book on systems thinking, but it's a good intro to that. So those are the 5 books if I was just starting. I think that there's a whole host of other books as well. So that's one I'll probably be writing, and we may be talking about more on this podcast as far as, as you kind of advance in product management, what are some other good reads? But those would be the ones that I would recommend, as good fundamental product management books. I'll also throw in as a bonus 2 that I always go back to, Creativity Inc. and Range by David Epstein. Like those are just 2 that I find myself referencing all the time. Just on Creativity Inc. is the story of Pixar, and that's just it. There's so many great lessons in there for product managers and how to be creative and how to create a culture of innovation. So that's a little bonus for you.
I actually was very curious how many books that you list would be ones that I'm like, oh, okay, that's the one that I've heard a lot about, and I think Creativity Inc. is the one that not just product managers, but I think just across the board, everyone loves.
Yep.
I know that engineers that we have worked with, they also have read that book and they thought that it was very inspiring, not just for one particular discipline, but and the thing is, it's about Pixar. Like, who doesn't want to know more about that?
It's right? Yeah. I mean, the stories are so great, so applicable. And I think it's applicable to anybody who's doing like innovative and creative work. And that's, engineers, designers. I think there's just a ton in there for product managers in thinking about how to design and create good products. Cause that's pretty much what they were doing, is they were really thinking about how do we create good products as a movie and as a story. And that's what we're doing, is we're creating those compelling experiences and those compelling stories.
That's awesome. With books, I feel like there's one Desert Island user experience book that I would recommend if you don't have a lot of time and want something that is very well sectioned. I don't know what's the best way to describe that. User Experience Team of One is a great book, and I think it's been really helpful in, at the beginning of my career, and also like throughout, as I am working on something, I have to quickly reference back to the book. Like this book has been great because, like I mentioned, it's very clearly sectioned out to, which part of the book is about testing, which part of the book is more about like design, research, and all these things. And they have very quick chapters on tools that you can use to, accomplish different tasks. And it's just like I feel like it's a book full of ideas that you can really draw from. And it points out very specific, they're not rules, but more like guidelines, why you should pay attention to certain things. And those are things that at the beginning of my career, I was like, oh, that's very interesting. How does that work? And I really, really, really like that book. And Leah Beeley is the author. And I believe that she actually started working at Envision, if I'm remembering correctly. And I really enjoy her work. And so that is my Desert Island UX book. And let's see. And I'm going to go on maybe another list, and then we'll go back to Kyle. And earlier this year, I attended Convey UX. It's definitely a conference that I really recommend. It's hosted by Blink. And this year we were in Seattle for Convey UX. And I want to bring up this conference because I think there are a lot of different UX conferences in the industry, but I don't want to vouch for anything that I haven't personally experienced, especially conferences. And this is also a weird year too. There are so many, I think, virtual conferences that the tickets are a lot cheaper than usual. So I'm curious what everyone's experience is like so far. But at the beginning of this year, when I went to Convey UX, I thought the topics were very diverse within the user experience field, and also the speakers that they have, just a wide range of, from, healthcare service design to agency. I mean, Blank themselves worked on projects for NASA, and seeing, how they put that together, just different, I guess, the different aspect of user experience too. I think they did a really good job putting on that event. And also at the same time, I think I can't remember exactly what the price tag was because it was kind of half a year ago now, but I remember the value was definitely exceeded what I was expecting to get out of it. And there was a lot of opportunity to actually network and have smaller groups in one talk, that you get a little bit more intimate experience. Like, when you usually go to a conference, there are definitely sessions that are like hundreds of people in the one room. And when we had breakout sessions, it was max maybe 20 people. So it was really nice to have these smaller sessions that you get to have a real Q&A with the speakers after. And they also included some machine learning topics and also voice interface design. So that was very, very interesting. And I have to give a shout out to Blank, really, for just including a diversity in design panel that was the main event. It wasn't like we'll think about that for whoever wants to do it, but it's become a necessity in, on everyone's mind. Everyone who works on product, we really do have to think about that, not just as a secondary, like, need to, put that on the roadmap to show that we care about this. No, I think they did a really good job to make sure this is really a focus of what we as product people do, by including that on the main stage. So I really, really recommend Convey UX. And if you have the budget next year, definitely look into that. And so that's my list, and we'll come back to me. And Kyle, what's on your list?
Talking about conferences, I think conferences are a huge one, and obviously like a more time intensive and money intensive one, but a really, really valuable one. This year has been a lot different conference wise, which has been interesting because I think it's been good and bad in that it's brought the costs down for, some virtual conferences, but it's also taken away some of the in-person experience. So, there's been positives and negatives. As far as some conferences go, I've attended a bunch of them as a product person. And so I would give a shout out to, first off, our local one, Front Utah is just a really, really good one. Not just because it's local, but it's just really, really well put on. So in a normal environment, it's twice a year where they do a kind of a main stage event. I think they call it a case study one in the spring. And that's where, it's kind of your typical conference talks. And, that's over the course of, I think 2 days. And then a workshop one in the fall. And, that's, I think 3 days typically. So that's a really great one. Mind the Product. Also, that's, if you're a product person, you're probably familiar with Mind the Product and their conferences. Another really, really good one. They are, probably one of the leaders kind of in the product area. So definitely that one. Industry, I had the chance to do that one as well. another really, really good one. So there's both Mind the Product and Industry went virtual this year and did a really good job at transitioning from a in-person event to a virtual one. So obviously it'll be nice to go back to kind of an in-person experience at some point in the future. But for doing it virtually, like they were, I'd say, extremely successful at doing that and leveraging some new technology. So I think we gave a shout out to the platform that they were using, which the name is escaping me here for a second. It was called Hopin. Okay.
So, I was like something pin, something in, like, yep.
Yeah. So
got it.
The technology they used was Hopin, and it was, I think a lot of conferences have been using it. Really, really great. And it's exciting to see some of the technology kind of come forward for virtual conferences in using kind of a main stage, the interaction that you get with both the presenters who I think have recorded some of their sessions ahead of time and are then interacting with people like real time. So they're like, they're presenting, in air quotes, and then like answering questions like in the chat as their presentation is happening. So like, and even kind of like poking fun at themselves, like as their presentation is going. And so it makes for an interesting dynamic, like as it's going on. So those conferences, and then a new one, a product-led alliance. They have been putting on like some meetups and conferences and things like that that have been really good as well. So they've been doing, I think this is a relatively new one, and I had the chance to attend 2 of their virtual conferences so far. They've been really good. And once they're back in person, I look forward to hopefully going. And I'm actually slated to speak at one next year. So hopefully that will be we'll see how that goes. So look for that coming up.
That's amazing. Is this the announcement that you're making here on this podcast of your debut?
Yeah. So it will be, hopefully it will be my in-person debut, but I guess if it has to be virtual, it'll be virtual. But it was originally planned for last month, but obviously got bumped to next year because it's going to be in person.
I'm just kidding.
Why was that?
Why are we still here where we are?
Why
that is
indeed?
a real question, but congratulations. That's really cool. And speaking of speaking, I am supposed to be going, not at a conference, but going to my college where I graduated to speak. And I was actually pretty excited to go back to my college and kind of walk down memory lane. And of course, that's not happening. It's all going to be virtual. It's going to be recorded. And now I'm like, oh man, I wish I could really go down there to Southern Utah. Anyways, that's really cool. Same question to you though. Do you have a favorite conference like that you have attended before?
My favorite is probably still Front in Utah. Like I just really enjoy it. Like the atmosphere, probably because you get a lot of local just product people. And so there's probably that part as well. There's just so many of us locally, getting a chance to kind of meet and network and, see kind of the local community. So probably a little bit of personal bias, just, since we're in Utah and that, but again, I don't think you could go wrong with any of them. And so not to deter anybody from other places looking to come in to Salt Lake and attend Front. There are lots of people who come in from other locations. So it's
Locals
fun.
Only.
Yeah, it's fun to meet a lot of the people who fly in from all sorts of different locations. Like I know we've met people from pretty much every continent that have come in and participated. So definitely don't be deterred if you're not local. But that's probably just my kind of personal bias that it's a really good one. a good local one.
Yeah, I have never really thought about, because I guess I've never been to a local conference where it's like down the street and then, people are, living 10 minutes away. Never really had that experience. But last time when I was at Config UX, the crazy thing that happened was that I ran into somebody literally sat 2 seats away from me, or can you say it 2 seats away when it's you and that person with one other stranger like sandwiched between? Would you say one person away or 2 away? How do you count?
How do you count? Well, I guess that'd be one person. So like one person in between you.
Yeah. So one person away, I guess.
Yeah.
I love that sometimes I have these like existential crises of like, wait a minute, have I been counting the wrong way on this podcast recorded? So yeah, one person away at that conference that we actually work for the same company, same parent company. And then because I was talking to the person next to me and I'm like, oh yeah, I work for this place. So then this woman next to the person I'm talking to, she's like, wait, did you say ClearLink? And I'm like, yeah. And then it was just the craziest thing, because that session also was like hundreds of seats and it just happened to be one person away from me. That was a very crazy small world moment. But you're right, like meeting people is really fun. Who would have known? And also nowadays, because I did industry, and I remember seeing people giving shout out to people who are from the same place as them. It's also really, really fun to see that happen virtually too. I don't know. It's different, but I am curious how the conference movement will change as we, I don't know, either go back to in person or stay more virtual. I'm sure there will still be virtual conferences happening as we continue to move to go back in person. Or anyways.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think that it will probably have to continue, just given the longevity of where we're going to be. Like things aren't going to rapidly go back to pre-COVID or anything like that. I keep saying it, like we're in a new paradigm, and there's no going back to kind of the old paradigm. So how we move forward, it'll be really interesting. I imagine, again, there's going to be some sort of hybrid approach to like what the future looks like. So it'll be interesting.
And now we just brought everyone back from product management or product design to reality of the doomsday we're living in. But
I've got one more list.
Okay.
And
let's go.
Okay. So this is the last list, and it is on training. So this is like when we get into the more expensive area. So I guess I'd caveat it with, there are some more expensive like product training things that you can do. And if you're familiar with product management, like you're probably familiar with some of them, like Pragmatic or other like places that offer like certifications and things like that. Me personally, I don't know that you necessarily need to do that sort of thing for product management. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's necessary. But at the same time, I do think that like very specific training around specific skills is like a really good thing. So if there are areas that you want to develop as far as a specific skill like speaking or writing or presenting that will be helpful for your role, like seeking out training for those things would be a really good idea. And then doing, even some longer workshops around, very specific product skills. So a lot of these organizations like Mind the Product or Industry, a lot of the places that put on conferences or other schools or organizations or even, consulting organizations, they'll do, workshops, for a couple days around a very specific topic like user interviews or design sprints or user story mapping, those types of things. So if you want like a really in-depth experience on how to do something like that, I think that type of thing could be really useful to kind of get a really good intro to how do we do something like this and how could we apply it to our organization and my team and that sort of thing, rather than, like a broad kind of product management. So those obviously are not free and probably not cheap either, but potentially good things, especially if you could do them like as a team, or even as an individual, just to kind of level up some of your skills, especially if you've been doing product management for a little while and kind of know and have a good understanding, and then want to kind of take things to the next level. Like how can I really start to do good, user story mapping and hone that skill more? Those are some things that you could look into, or more generic skills as far as like speaking or presenting, that type of thing.
I really like that you brought up like these paid things or versus free things, because nowadays there are so many free resources out there that you can just partake without having to invest a lot of your own money, or even having to convince your boss to pay for going to a conference and stuff like that too. Official training. Because yes, we do want to go to conference, but because I actually want to bring up this talking point is that there are a lot of people that talk about their online platforms like Udemy. Is it Udemy? I always wonder how to say their name correctly. Or Coursera. There's a lot. All their names are very hard to pronounce in my book. I don't know why. Or even boot camp, like General Assembly. There's like a range of paid training that you can get, or up to kind of what I was mentioning, the Newson Norman. Did I say it right? Newson Norman, not Norman Newson Group, yep. That you can pay for. But those are, again, just high range, higher in that scale. So I would recommend, if you're just looking for knowledge in a tool, or in like, I need to use Figma versus Sketch in my new job. Like I have never used this tool before. Yes, pay for a $20 course and get that knowledge in the tool. But then when it comes to like these more process or ideas or textbook knowledge stuff, I feel like there's definitely plenty of free knowledge before you decide you have to invest $2,000 for, a specific training certificate and all these things. Not that I'm discouraging it, but I think there is a lot that you can do before you have to make that giant investment. That's kind of how I see it. To me too, for UX people, I definitely want to say that when you have time, I would also recommend spend time. And this is going to I'm going to sound like a broken record and so obvious. Talk to users. You're going to learn a lot more what they need than you spending 10 hours to learn about process and learning about research, but without spending any time to practice and knowledge that you have. I think that's also one thing that I have seen, where people have the textbook knowledge, but when you don't put those in practice, those theories kind of are just ideas in your head instead of actual learning that you can get from, putting those in use. And also there is one thing I also want to bring up, is that there is non-traditional training that you can do, which is drum roll. This is something I have brought up on this podcast before, is reach out to a professional. And if you really want to understand, how do I apply this theory in practice? Or how do other people do research, and whatever process that is, reach out to a professional and see if you can shadow them for half a day or whatever that is, and just make that ask. Usually the professionals are friendly, and we like talking about how we do things. And we also want to learn about how you do things. And so, yeah, I think we need to do more of that on the ground networking outside of, conferences and stuff too. I think that especially UX people, because I do think that UX people, the way we do things sometimes can vary very, very, very widely depending on the product that you work on. And so, yeah, I feel like those are things that are important to keep in mind too. And last thing I keep adding one more thing. Product Hive has a mentorship program that will help you to reach to other people in the industry You can sign up to be either a mentor or a mentee. I actually was part of that program as a mentee. Is that how you say it? Mentee. And I found that very helpful because even having another person in the industry, because they do a really good job pairing you up with people. And I found a lot of value coming out of those bi-weekly check-in and just having someone to brainstorm some ideas. Especially if you feel like at work, you cannot find that confidant to brainstorm with. I highly recommend that Product Hive mentorship program. And they also have a Slack channel, and yeah, go check them out. It's free. So
yeah, I think you bring up a really good one. I think mentoring is a huge one, like whether that's doing it through some formal channel or, finding any way that you can to reach out to other people within the industry and just get to know other people through whatever means. The, kind of the formal way of like finding a mentor is really nice because you kind of get to establish like that mentor-mentee relationship and you don't have to go through kind of any trial and error because it gets kind of established. But then other ways of doing it is just, reaching out and getting to know people. You probably don't, if there's not the formal way, don't just reach out to somebody and be like, hey, will you be my mentor? Because that's, right. You're probably not going to be successful in that. And that's, I don't think that if somebody kind of reached out to me and just said that would be kind of awkward. And I don't know.
You say yes or do you say no? It's like, what am I actually committing to?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's just, it would be a little bit strange because in a formal program, like there's kind of like guidelines and there's like a start and end date. And so you like know what you're signing up for, but if somebody just did that out of the blue, but kind of like you were saying in just like in the real world, if somebody reaches out and just wants to ask questions and start to kind of establish a relationship, I think all of us are very willing to do that and, want to help other people and answer questions. And so if anybody were to reach out, I think all of us are very, very willing to, to start down that path. And then as it develops informally, being able to just have that type of relationship where, every few weeks or whatever it is to, answer questions and bounce ideas off of each other and, have that sort of relationship where it's a mentorship and, again, doesn't ever have to be necessarily formalized, but can just be, one of those things. And I've done that myself where it's, just started conversations and then over time periodically just reached out to people and asked questions and gotten ideas and gotten feedback and that sort of thing and developed that type of thing just organically where you have people that you can reach out to for certain things who have been in certain situations and are good people to have as resources because they've been in your shoes or been in certain areas and can answer those types of questions. So I think mentorship is a really good place for ongoing learning because, other people will have been in certain situations and can answer questions. So that's another really great one.
Yeah. And I just realized a second ago when I kept saying like, oh, professionals, blah, blah, blah. When I used that term, I was thinking like people that are just out of boot camp or still in a boot camp. And I was thinking that, but I didn't say it out loud. So just wanted to put it out there. That's why I was labeling as it's like, oh yeah, talk to the professionals. I know that there are professionals in the industry also want to talk to another professional. But the way I said it, I understand why you're sitting at home thinking, why are you labeling yourself professional? Like I am not. Trust me, I know you are. But I do want to, again, just address the group that are in, again, going through a boot camp or will be or already graduated from one. Because I know there's definitely a lot of you guys out there trying to get started or wanting to elevate your I guess performance in your first job, whatever it is. So definitely reach out and I think there are just many, many ways to learn and develop. Just find a way that work for you and make sure, again, put those things into practice and make sure it works for what you need to for your product. So I guess that is all that I have for today. Oh, And I have that one question I want to ask if you don't have anything to add.
Yep.
I do feel like after work, I'm tired. There's only so much time in the world, right? And you're a parent, you understand that. So if there's so much time that you can spend on professional development after hours, which way do you think is the most effective?
Oh boy. Let's see. That is a really, really good question.
Most effective for you, or your favorite way to learn?
I'd say that they all lend themselves to me in different ways. And obviously like I'm kind of looking at, some of the first things that we talked about, so early on the list are, some of the things I feel like you can do more often, like podcasts and articles and books. Like those are things, at least for me, I can do a lot more frequently. Like they're a lower lift. And I do like a lot more, just because they don't require probably as much. They do require time and investment, but it's something that I can do. Like I have the ability to do. And then when you get into more of like the mentoring and especially like conferences and training, like those are a bit more of an investment, and they either take a little bit more time or money or whatever in order to be able to do. So, I think that they lend themselves well, but are something that you just don't have either the ability to do as frequently. So, I mean, if I'm doing something the most, it's probably for me, reading and listening to podcasts. Like that's just what I do, because I tend to get a lot out of that, and that I like to read a lot and then digest it and then either talk about it or write about it, which is kind of one of my things, and then put it into practice, like take those different things and then apply them to what I'm doing. So I feel like that's the fastest turnaround for me. Like what I can do is learn something, think about it, apply it in some way, and then learn from it. So like the loops for me are the fastest there. Again, not to say that those other things don't have a lot of merit, like conferences and training and things. But as far as like the learning loop, I think the fastest for me are some of those first things.
Like that. And if I have to pick something off, all these mediums and areas that you can grab resources from, I would say start with reading and then mentorship. Those two are probably where I think you get the most out of your time. Because first start with reading and you get some ideas or, just yourself processing it. And then when you go into the process of, getting a mentor and having those questions to ask after you have generated your own thoughts on those knowledge, like I think that's probably the most effective process of just digesting something. And I think that process to me is the most effective. But yeah, I think everything else that we have talked about here, those are all helpful things. But I was just thinking like a lot of people nowadays, we are all doing 500 things during the week. And after hours, not going to lie, sometimes it's hard to put time into, doing more serious stuff. And sometimes I just want to play some video games. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your lists. And I guess we will put everything in the show notes.
Yeah.
And do you have anything to add before we go into our gripe zone or
no
shout out?
That's a good one. Yeah. It's good.
Sweet. Do you have any product shout out or product gripe this week?
I will let you go first.
What? Why? Do you have a gripe, or is that why?
I need a second to think, I think.
I was so looking forward to you dropping a bomb of I have some very hateful thing to say about our product. That's what I thought you were going to drop. That's why you wanted me to go first, but no. But that's not the reason.
No. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. I really do look forward to the day where you just come in blazing with the gripe. But of course, per usual, I have a gripe. This one is more lighthearted. This one is not as personal to me. You're gonna laugh, and so just putting a disclaimer out there. I have a Pixel phone, and so do you. Dear world, Pixel is better. Okay.
I don't, but my wife does. So
wait, I thought you have a Pixel one.
I have a Galaxy Note 10 Plus.
How come when I text you, there's like the blue bubble? Is it just Android?
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it's probably Android. Yeah.
Why did I think that it's only Pixel phone? I was so excited when I saw that bubble on your end when it first. But I also only have. I think you're the only one other Android person that I interact with.
Probably.
Maybe that's why. Because my husband, everyone else uses iPhone.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my gripe that is very lighthearted and also do not. It has no bearing in my life. Is I heard that the new iPhone does not come with anything in the box. I'm just curious how you feel about that and just overall Apple, because we have never really talked about that on this podcast, I don't think. But yeah, I kind of have a slight level of like, oof, your money grabby strategy is showing through the product towards Apple.
Yeah. That's, I haven't read the latest. So they made their announcement this week and I haven't had time to go through. I normally go through like all of their announcement stuff and I haven't had a chance yet. So that was probably with like their latest phone announcement, right?
Yeah. I am 99% sure they said that there will be no charger, no cords, nothing but the phone in the box. I'm just curious. I mean, yeah. What are your immediate thoughts on that?
Oh boy. So I guess a couple thoughts. First, how are you going to charge your phone? Especially if you get a new one. 2,
$50.
Yeah.
Then you can charge your phone.
It's a little frustrating because as goes Apple, most other major phones usually go as well. So I don't know. I feel like we can probably expect other flagship phones to stop having like accessories come with them as well. Cause most I feel like most others kind of follow suit. And so it probably won't be as big of a deal for some just because we have, I don't know, as long as there's still like USB-C, like we have a lot of USB-C charging cables around, but still like I feel like it's always nice just to have one when you travel and stuff and you lose things and whatever. But anyway, I don't like it because then I have to buy one on Amazon and it's just an extra thing you have to buy. So I don't know. I'm gonna give a thumbs down. Don't like it.
I like that system. Thumbs down for this. I also is a thumbs down for me. And this is the reason why I also bring this one up this week is I really didn't experience any specific love or hate towards any particular product. And when this news came out, I definitely was like, this will be an interesting one to bring up at the end of recording this week. Because I think it's interesting product decision that they're like, no, nothing. And I don't know if this is an official statement, but some people are saying that because everyone already have 20 chargers and 20 cords sitting around. So that's why they're not doing it. I don't know if that's official, but even then I do think that you're giving someone something. What if it's my first iPhone, and it does feel like a poor choice on their part, or someone's going to have.
Yeah. What about like a way to opt out? Like what if I have enough chargers and cords and stuff? Like if it's to save, if we're talking about just like pure waste, like if let's start to limit the amount of waste that we have, which I can get behind that. Like if I have enough and I'm not going to use it because I've got too many, like I'm all for like, let's limit that. I don't know if that starts to make, the supply chain difficult or whatever, but taking all that out for a minute.
They can do the projection. Who do you think they are?
We'll set all that aside. But if I can just opt out and say, hey, I don't need it. Let's, don't send me that. That's awesome. But somebody who does need it, then it's like, okay, just make it part of the package, and you get your charging stuff because it's your first or your second iPhone or whatever, or if you don't get it in the package, then you're going to have to go on Amazon and buy one, and it ends up being a pain, or you're going to have to add one to your cart with Apple and buy their $50 charging, which is that. If you're going to do that, don't do it. Go somewhere else and buy it, because you'll probably get it for cheaper.
Now I feel like this might be the most just, what is that word? Controversial topic that we have brought up on this podcast. We're going to start getting tweets about this.
Good.
Because anytime Apple is brought up, it's like immediately someone's on their phone typing, right? Tweet at us.
Yeah.
Let's hear what you think.
They preemptively, somebody's sensing it right now, and they're.
I do like your perspective, but I also feel like this isn't. Are they trying to be environmentally friendly? Don't feel like it. It feels more like a kind of a making you buy more dongles, more whatever accessories type of a scheme.
Yeah.
But I just really was curious about your reaction. But yeah, I like your thumbs down.
Yeah. Going back to the whole dongle fiasco of like, you have to buy the dongle to plug in your headphones, and that was,
As a product person, I'm like, this doesn't feel good. Why would you ship this without the other half of it? Right? Anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, any gripes or any shout out from you this week?
No, that actually feels pretty good for this one.
Yeah, we both thumbs down on that one. Yeah. So so definitely. Can I say that was a gripe from both of us?
Yeah.
To Apple.
Yeah, that works.
Sweet. Tweet at us. And that is the episode. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
See ya. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can find out more about us and our podcast on our website at productbydesign.co. You can also follow us on Twitter at prodbydesign. That's at prod_by_design. You can follow me on Twitter at Kyle Larry Evans. And you can also find Eva on Twitter at Yan Chow Chow. See you next time.